Good morning. It's Wednesday, July 6th. It's Viewpoint. Don't turn off your dials right away, folks. I have some bad announcements to make. Judith K. Busby is not with us this morning. She's enjoying some much-needed recreation time with her family. She will be back and taking charge with us next Wednesday. We miss Judy always. She's just a delight to work with. She's a great co-host on Viewpoint. And she would be particularly pleased to be here today with a couple of fine boys from South Emden, or maybe just north of South Emden. We're going to introduce these two illustrious gentlemen in just a couple of minutes here. We always try to start out Viewpoint with a kudo or two, particularly in our neighborhood, to David Hanger and Norm Newhouse. They take it upon themselves. They have a proprietary interest in the boulevard in front of their, between their houses on Lincoln Avenue. Keep it decorated. Have a nice little flower pot with flags, and they've got the bench all out there. They do a great job. And speaking of flags, we want to thank everyone on the 200 and 300 block on Peoria Street. 100% of the houses on Peoria Street on the 200 and 300 block had their flags flying. We're going to try to make that a tradition every holiday that we should be flying our flags. And for that matter, I wonder if it's possible. Mr. Ash, do you think it's possible that we could get started on a Flag Day, have Lincoln known as Flag Day, the Flag City, and have our flags flying all over the country? I mean, all over the city, I should say. Make a special effort. They have those little inexpensive 18 by 24 inch flags. That's what we mostly had on our sidewalks. Be a neat thing. So let's think about that out there in the air, folks. Let's finally go over to Vinegar Hill. What a great job those folks did over at Mount Pulaski. They worked hard. Kudos to Tom Martin and all of his staff who worked so hard to put on that 175th commemoration over there. And to those of you who are jazz fans and did not make it over there to see Red Lair and his St. Louis Rivermen, tough work, folks. You missed a great program. Now, let's get down to some serious business here. The reason we have these two illustrious citizens of Emden, one's a former citizen. They ran him out, I think, not too long ago. And we took him in Lincoln to practice law here, which he's done for a couple of years. And Darrell Klink, coming to us from Emden about 5 or 6 years ago. And Thomas Komnick, a friend of ours from way back, and Tom and Darrell obviously knew one another as young people. They're here today because in the recent past they have taken the honor flight to Washington, D.C. To see the memorials on this program that is aided and abetted by an institution called Honor Flights. It happened that Darrell flew out of Wisconsin, which is kind of unusual and unique, because his son Brian signed him up there, and Tommy just got back flying out of Springfield to Washington on a trip that I took last September. So, welcome, gentlemen. We're glad to have you aboard. We want to talk just a little bit about the honor flight. We'll pass the baton first to Darrell, because lawyers always want to speak first, and they'll want to get the last word in too. Tom, you understand that. That's the nature of the profession. Yes. Darrell, tell us about your trip out of Wisconsin, and we'll see how it differed from what we do here in Illinois. It's kind of, each one of us do things a little bit differently. For instance, you have got a real good look. Pull that shield around so that the jacket will show on the video here. Each organization will. Oh, there you go. Okay, operates just a little bit differently. And tell us about your Wisconsin experience. We know on the Washington end what takes place. Kind of tell us how it started in Wisconsin, Darrell.
Oh, it was just fabulous. 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, early for you.
It's early for even you, Bill. And it was just so well arranged. It's the people are so kind, and at all times it was well organized. As a matter of fact, I think I commented they should run the war. They were so organized. And at any rate, Tammy and I arrived at the airport. Do you want to start there? Or?
Yeah, surely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And everyone was to find their guardian. In this case, it was a gentleman from LaGrange who was my guardian, Gordy Shills, really fine guy.
LaGrange, Illinois?
Yes.
That's interesting to have a guardian from Illinois go out of the Wisconsin group.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
he was just a fine man, and we got to be friends, and he's going to come to see me. There were all kinds of military men there in full dress and saluting.
Yeah.
And just so kind and so warm and so generous. It was just quite an occasion.
It's kind of an overwhelming way to start your day.
Yes, and I really had no idea about how large this was. There was 2 757s that we flew.
You had 2 planes go out.
Yes.
That's interesting, yeah.
And full. Well, primarily, when you arrived at the airport, they took the information and you got on the plane, and that's just about it.
Perhaps we should, there may be some folks out there who are really not truly aware of what honor flight and what it is. For the benefit of those who might not have that information, the real purpose of the story, I think, is it just shows how one person can make a difference on a singular issue. As we know, this started in Ohio with a physician who was seeing, and we've talked about this on the air. For those of you who have heard that before, I apologize, but I think I need to reiterate what happened here, how this got started. This physician was seeing this elderly gentleman who was a World War II veteran, and this was right about the time that the World War II Memorial opened up. Incidentally, I had written Senator Bob Dole right after that happened, and I got a nice reply from him. Now, I don't know whether it was Bob Dole's signature or Sammy Bill's signature, but I got a nice reply out of the office.
They tell me that Bob Dole has even been out there to greet.
That's right. That's my understanding, that he has made it a point to do that. Age has taken its toll. Now with Bob, the senator, we were not on first name basis. But anyway, this captain, physician, retired captain, decided that it would be a shame if this gentleman did not get to see this memorial. And the man didn't have the wherewithal or know how to go about doing it. And so this gentleman, who was a pilot, he and 3 other pilots, 4 planes, took 7 veterans out there from Ohio for this first visit to our national memorials. And that's how that thing has grown. And it's just grown exponentially throughout the entire country now. Some days there are 4, 5, and 6 flights from all over the country coming into Washington, deplaning veterans to go. Some of us walking, some of us in wheelchairs, some of us need an oxygen, some doing very well, thank you. They are prepared to take anybody who has any infirmities at all. And by the by, as just a quick aside, if there's a patient who is terminally ill but still able to make this trip, they move them to the top of the list, and that includes our veterans from Afghanistan and Iraq who are looking at the end of the line very quickly. So they waive that requirement for the Afghanistan and Iraqi veterans, which is certainly a noble thing to do. But what they do, and we're going to talk about this, is go out there and show us these great monuments. So when you got to Washington, Mr. Klink, were you a little bit surprised when you got off the plane?
No, yes. It was a dramatic greeting, and people standing at attention, and groups and lines of people to greet us. It was unusual. I was really not prepared for any of this.
No, none of us are. We get off there kind of blasé, and well, we're going to go see the monuments, get back on this rascal and fly home.
That's really what but it's nothing like that.
Yeah.
And one of the things, a little aside, Sean McCullough had tried to be there, and we didn't get done, but I just was pleased that she made the attempt. She's quite a lady.
Well, Tom, when you did you drive down from the airport from home, or did you stay overnight at the motel down the road from the Springfield to get on that bird when you went?
No, my son Lee was my caretaker, as he thinks he's always been. And we drove from, met him at Lincoln, and we drove from Lincoln. And we were like the same thing as Darrell, had the same experience. We got there at 5 o'clock, and there were people there to meet us, which I thought was great. I never expected anything like that. And our experiences there and at Washington and coming home were a lot like Darrell's. When we came home, we landed after 10 o'clock sometime before, and we had to go through check. But anyway, there were probably 75 or 100 people there waiting, and they were clapping and cheering. And I've never been clapped at before, and it was a new experience for me, and I loved it. And I can remember one thing especially. They were shaking hands and so forth, and this one young lady kissed me on the cheek. Came up and kissed me on the cheek. And
did you wash that side yet?
No, I haven't washed it, and I kind of wanted to kiss her back, but the line was moving, and I had to keep moving. But I enjoyed that very much, and I was totally surprised. And I don't think many people, except the celebrities in this world, and some of the politicians, which I think is love that's not deserved in many cases.
You want to say that again about several of them, or maybe most of them?
Well, I better not say that. But anyway, it was an experience that I'd never had before, and of course, naturally, you lap it up.
Well, as I said before, almost ad nauseum, by the time you get through the experience of the day, you'd think you'd personally stormed Pointe du Hoc and went all the way up to Berlin all by yourself. You know,
that's one of the things I felt guilty about, because I never got overseas. I was in training forever and ever, and I was in the Air Force.
Never feel guilty about the way you and the Army assigned you, my boy.
Well, I know, but I never contributed to anything.
Yes, you did.
I just sucked up resources in all this training.
Well, listen, you earned your battle stars in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
How did you know I was there?
We talked once before.
We did?
For the benefit of Darrell and Jim and those 2 or 3 that are out there in the airways today, Tom and I trained at the same radio mechanic operator school in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Oh,
and
I didn't know
that was quite an experience. Did you have the 2 sisters that were instructors there? They were elderly, and they were instruction in code, CW?
No, I didn't. We had, I suppose they were middle-aged or maybe a little younger.
At that age, everybody was middle-aged. at our ages then.
I was 18. How old were you?
How old was I?
Yeah.
I was 19 when I went into
you were
older guy. Yeah.
More mature.
Yeah. Well, I was 18 when I enlisted into the Air Corps, but by the time I got to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, I was 19. So, I found that to be a pretty interesting base. But anyway, we're here to talk about Washington and the honor flight. The thing that intrigues me is where do they get these people in the city of Washington to come to meet these planes all of the time? It's one thing here in Springfield or Wisconsin. You went out of Milwaukee, Darrell, at Billy Mitchell.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bill Mitchell.
Yeah.
Are we all right here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
You're fine. You're fine. Just grab a hold of that mic and don't let it get away.
Sure.
One thing for us to show up here on a local basis, but for those folks who in Washington, that's a major metropolitan area, and it's not just one plane that comes in there. As I said a while ago, some days there are 4 and 5 and 6 planes come in, and they have people meeting these planes, every one of them, so that each veteran gets the same experience as he deplanes and starts his process to go see the memorials.
Well, I think there was a long line in Washington to the buses.
Oh, yes. It's a phalanx of people.
But I have to tell you this. Coming back, as you say, everybody experiences this, but coming back, I understand the people in Wisconsin were there at 4 o'clock. Our plane was held up for an hour because of weather.
Yeah.
We probably got there around 10.
Yep.
And they say that there was about 7,000 people. That's what the police.
It's real.
I mean, it was.
It's just incredible.
Right, and they did treat us like rock stars. There was a bagpipe band.
Yeah.
There was another larger band. There were 50 flag holders.
The ranks of flags to go through.
And people at attention. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And you just you start out in this, and you think, you were talking about rock stars treatment, and you start just to walk, and you realize they want to shake hands and touch you and talk to you and thank you, and it's overwhelming, really.
I had a lady ask me if she could have her 2 little daughters to have a picture taken with me, for goodness sakes. Well, of course I was kidding. I was about 7 feet high when they took that picture.
Bill?
Yes, sir.
We were heroes I knew 2 Civil War soldiers, of course, but to think that, we're looking at, well, I was born 60 years after the end of the Civil War, so that kind of puts us in our age in perspective, which surprises even us, I suppose. And now it's 66 years after the end of the World War II.
Yeah.
So to them, it's like the people that meet us and greet us and are so kind. It's like they're meeting, almost to them, like we were to meeting a Civil War soldier.
Yeah.
So we're their Civil War soldier.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
It kind of scares me.
Well, we're getting out of here. The statistic I read on the internet was that about 1,000 a day of us are getting out of this world. I think there are probably a few more than that, maybe 1,500 a day getting out of this world now. So we're fast becoming the extinct generation, as far as that's concerned.
We'll be like the dinosaurs.
Incidentally, as you guys know, the folks out in the air should know, that as soon as they work their way through World War II veterans, they're taking the Korean, and then they're going to ultimately work their way through to the Vietnam veterans, who certainly should get their recognition, which is way, 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 way past due. That's an interesting experience in sociology, I guess. When we came home, went about our job, and we were welcomed home, and that was that. And we went about our respective jobs and professions, or going back to school or whatever, and just a normal transition. Unfortunately, those boys who came home from Vietnam experienced some very unusual and unfortunate circumstances, and it's a little bit difficult to understand what created that, and I think the media has created that, is my quick answer to that. What would you say, Counselor?
The media creates a great deal. I would say that really the overall perspective of what happened that day, that's what is just thanking of people who contributed. And we're talking about going through that line again. Tom was talking about that. You didn't feel, we enlisted, everybody enlisted, and in those days you just did it. That's just what you did.
Did your job, came home.
But these people, but they wanted to touch you, and so you reacted. At first you were just walking in, and then you realized they want to touch you and thank you. And I was accepting it for everyone that had served in the war, and it's very, very nice of these people to do all this.
Well, Tommy was short on his count on the people down in Springfield. I guess he was counting feed sacks, but there were several hundred down there.
Well, yeah.
The last time I went down, for the last group to come home, it was packed.
Yes.
That whole Springfield terminal was packed with people. And that plane was late and did not come in, so it was after 10 when they finally got them into the concourse to be welcomed. And they had folks there with their children.
Yes.
And, which is a good historical experience for those youngsters to know what that's all about.
And they too were involved in it. And I'll tell you, I want to tell you this one last thing, because it's family. At the end of the line was my family, and they had T-shirts of me. I had no idea they were doing any of this. Of course, my grandson flew in from Florida, but there they were. I was concerned about missing them because of the people, and I see them with the T-shirts with my picture.
Well, how could they make T-shirts with your derogatory pictures? Isn't that what you had with your...
Well, you could call it what you want to, but I liked it, Bill.
That was interesting. They could do that for you. You know, I think perhaps, Jim, if you're ready for a commercial break, we'll take it, and we're going to get back to the honor flight information very quickly.